There's a lot of people that have discussion about the continent, and they feel that the continent isn't progressing enough. We see stories where a lot of our brothers and sisters are really set back in their thinking because they don't understand the system that they're living in. And that's not really their fault if you know the logistics and some of the politics of what they have going on in their countries. But understand that the African continent is a young population. Now, young would be 25 and under. It's a very young population. The majority of their people are coming up right now. And there's a lot of calls right now to start to decolonize Africa. And this movement really got stirred up in South Africa and Ghana, where in South Africa they removed a British colonist by the name of Cecil Rhodes, his statue. Now let's talk about Cecil Rhodes for a minute. Cecil Rhodes was a brutal murderer. He had a precursor to apartheid in South Africa. He was a person that stole land. He was a person that believed in true racism, and he believed that he was superior and his race was superior. He stated in many of his writings that his race is the first race, and anyone that comes underneath their rule should just be happy. So a lot of young people are starting to read more. A lot of young people are connecting with us here and with us all over the world. And they're realizing that, wait a minute, we are living in a land that's ours. Why is it that we're being subjected to a colonizer in 2019? Why is it that in West Africa, we're still being subjected to a French colonizer, which is just a colonizer that has speak a different language? We got the colonizers in South Africa. We got all these colonizers running around, and yet we're still dealing with them. So it's a big push and a big call to get rid of anyone that had any kind of anti-black sentiment. Just like in Ghana, when they took down that statue of Gandhi. Gandhi said a lot of things that was anti-black. He did not really like black folks like that. They hold him up as this great guy, but no, he didn't like black people like that. Not at all. They want to be free. They want to do for themselves. They want the ability within the African continent to be the captains of their own destiny. So they really pushing more and more and more on college campuses to decolonize Africa. And that's something that we promote wholesale here. We want the African continent to be free of colonization. Now, brothers and sisters in the continent, it's a process to decolonization. And I'm gonna give you the short form, but if you are interested in a longer form, then we could actually create a podcast series of decolonizing the mind. And we could talk extensively how to decolonize your mind, especially on the African continent. It would be something I think that you guys could really take advantage of if we decide to do that. But let me know if you're interested, and then we'll decide to create a podcast series where you guys can just listen to it over and over and over. It's much easier to listen to a podcast than trying to upload a YouTube video to listen. That's what I found out. So with that being said, let's talk about that real quick. The reason why I'm mentioning decolonizing of the mind, if you don't decolonize the mind first, it doesn't matter about what's going on the outside. You can be completely liberated on the outside, but if your mind is still colonized, then what's the point? Whoever holds the mind holds you. Understand that. Whoever has this is controlling your decisions, because what's going on up here is going to make certain decisions. This is why when it comes to the mainstream media, they want to keep control, because why? They want a control of your mind. Because if they control your mind, you buy their products, you support their policies, their whatever case may be. Because at least definitely here in America, they all work hand in hand with each other. The media is the fourth arm of the government. It is the arm of the government that isn't labeled, okay? And the same government keeps these CNNs, the MSNBCs, the Fox News and everything afloat. Because they give them grants, they give them all kinds of things. But independent creators don't get that sort of thing, because we aren't on the ministry of propaganda that goes on, at least here in the United States of America. So the first step to decolonizing your mind is, number one, a knowledge of self. You got to know who you are. Once you know who you are, then you're going to really look at what you've been taught by the colonizer, and you're going to greatly reject it, because the colonizer taught you that you was ugly, that you was savage, that you didn't have no civilization until they showed up. You didn't know how to do nothing for yourself until they showed up. So once you really get a knowledge of yourself and actually know the true history of the colonizer themselves, and actually knew who taught the colonizer how to even become civil, then you would understand everything they taught you was a lie. So you need to research all the African kingdoms that was in existence prior to the colonizer even coming around you. That's getting a knowledge of self for those on the continent. Understand people like Mansa Musa, study him and how much money he had and what he did in around the 1300s or so. Study people like him. Study things like the Ashanti kingdom. I mean, as many kingdoms you could study, these people had nothing to do with. They looked out from the outside and say, oh, wow, look all the beauty and the marvel of these African kingdoms. In the Ashanti kingdom, you know, the colonizer couldn't even go in there, because the moment the colonizer went in the Ashanti kingdom, it was a wrap. They did not allow colonizers in there. I mean, it's a whole story to how they got in there, but I'm just giving you an example. It's many glorious, you know, in Nubia, another place that you can study. Axum, another place. You know, definitely we talk about Egypt. All these different things that was done without the colonizer. If you would understand your history, okay, and some of the colonizer has been so envious of your history, he's tried to put himself in your history and say he's the original Egyptian. And you know good and well that isn't true. And you're discovering more and more tombs every day in Egypt. And who do the people look like that's in the hieroglyphics? It looks just as dark as me, or dark as you, that's on the continent. So understand your history and where you come from. Now you have this knowledge of self. The next step is you need to know exactly the tactics that the colonizer used to get you off of who you really are, and which is the main one they've used is divide and conquer. So you need to understand all the people who collaborated with the colonizers and got you in the position that you're in. Once you've learned all that, you have to learn about the Berlin Conference. If you don't know how they split up African nations to themselves, you have to learn about everything the colonizer has done on the continent. You have to learn. Once you learn all these things, learn all the major players within colonization, like you say, like Cecil Rhodes is one of them. Once you learn all these people, then you also must understand their strategies of bringing in their missionaries first, which to get you to lower your defenses. They gave you a false version of Jesus, not the real version, because I know many of you really believe in the image that they gave you on the continent. The image that they gave you of a Jesus that looks like the colonizer. And you feel, some of you feel that, well, they're closer to God because they look like that picture. Well, you have to understand that it was done by design to deceive you. They done that because they had to convince you that God was white, okay? And as we would get into that series, I can go extensively like why they did that in the area of religion, right? Not relationship with God or religion. But many of you really believe that image. Now, I'm going to do something similar like the Hebrew Israelites. You know, I'm going to take just a short 2 scriptures. I got to talk to Africans that way because a lot of Africans believe in the Bible. So I'm going to take 2 scriptures that's going to debunk that image that has been, especially you got a big image of what we would call white Jesus now in Nigeria. That image isn't even accurate at all. Now, in the book of Revelation, chapter 1, verse 14 and 15, I'm talking to my African brothers and sisters over there. It gives you a description of what John himself saw of Jesus in that book. You can go look this up in your own Bible, your own time. Revelation chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. His head and hair were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes are like a flame of fire. That picture they have running around, is that woolly hair? Who has woolly hair, brothers and sisters on the continent? You, me, we have woolly hair. And yet he said Christ, when he saw him, he had woolly hair. The second identifier for him, he stated his feet were like fine brass as refined in a furnace, and his voice the sound of many waters. So he said that brass and refined in the furnace. Now, what is the color of brass, my African brothers and sisters? What is that? It's going to be this color right here. It's not going to be that picture that they have up for you. It's not going to be that statue that's in Nigeria. It's going to be this color. Woolly hair, this color. Meaning they lied to you. They lied to you because of what? They wanted you to believe that the Son of God was white like them. They did that to deceive you. They did that for you to bow your knee so they can colonize you. They did that purposely. They deceived you. I read you what was out of the Bible, not out of somebody's book. I read it out of the Bible. You can go and look at the Bible yourself, read it yourself, share that scripture with your friends and family, have a conversation, and then look at that image. After that, the image they've been promoting to you, saying that's what Christ looked like. And then if they would tell you, well, it doesn't matter, well, if it didn't matter, why you changed it? If it didn't matter, right? That's what you say. They always tell you that when you bust them out on that. Well, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it mattered because you wanted to deceive everyone to believe that Christ looked like you. And that's not the truth. So, because they know when we talk this way, a lot of times, you know, some of you brothers and sisters say, oh my God, those African Americans, they get kind of radical. No, I'm just telling you what's in the Bible to decolonize your mind and understand that you believe in God and you believe in his son. Well, his son looked like you. So that's a new conversation in itself. That's why I won't go in no one's church. They got that false image in there. I won't do it because it's not according to the Bible. Okay. I just want to let you guys know that. So that's a big part of why we can't get free is because we have been believing lies. We have been deceived. That's part of it. Then once you get past that portion of it, my brothers and sisters, then you have to understand that now you have to do for yourself. You can't keep asking these people for help. You don't need to on the African continent because you have all the resources of the world. Take them in your hands, sell them at market value, and everyone's going to be making money. Everyone's going to be doing good. You need to teach yourself. Teach your kids. No one should come in teaching you. You don't need no one's validation except the validation of yourself, your community. That's it. You don't need their validation. You don't need their opinions in your business, whatever that may be, because you have to learn how to cut the colonizer out of your life. You can't have the colonizer putting his or her opinion in your situation unless they are someone that completely agrees with you, someone that actually genuinely want to help. But then you got to weigh those who genuinely want to help too. Say, because at first they all come in like, oh, I just want to help you guys. Then they bring their missionaries, then they bring their armies. You get what I'm saying? So we're talking about just a short way for you to decolonize your mind. But we could talk about this in more an extensive way to decolonize your mind, because people right here in America need to decolonize their mind as well, because American black people are highly colonized. You guys may see it a little bit more, but to me, at times, we are worse off because we know exactly what's happened to us, and yet we still acting colonized, a lot of us here. So I'm definitely on board with the brothers and sisters getting the colonizer out of your lives, trying to have a new, free, and liberated Africa. I'm on board with you on that. I'm your biggest supporter in that. Remove every statue of a colonizer out of your nations. Take them down, destroy them, and erect statues of great people who fought for the liberation of the continent of Africa. That's who you replace them with. I know there's a push right now to start making Swahili be the continental language. I agree with that as well. You should do that. Anything that you can do to remove colonization, do that. Because coming together under something like that, one language, eventually moving to one currency, and hopefully one day one government, that would be great for the continent. It won't be so much division going on. Now, of course, you're going to have a lot of pushback with this decolonization push, because a lot of people make a lot of money out of African nations and the division and brokenness that's there. But I believe it's ordained for the continent to come together, and also throughout the world, we all going to come together as one. It's going to happen whether they like it or not. I just see the writings on the wall. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about their efforts to decolonize the continent. understand they're not going to share with you stories like this that's coming out of the continent. They want to share with you the horrible things and like they just can't, have no hope. But no, things will turn around on the continent every day, and it's a great time to see this. And we never know what the continent going to be in the next 20 years with this group of young people ready to make it free.